A garden can be bursting with flowers in July and still feel strangely empty. You see color, fresh mulch, a clipped lawn, and maybe a bird feeder, yet the bees arrive only briefly and the butterflies never seem to stay. If that sounds familiar, the missing piece may not be another flower, it may be time. A yard that feeds adult pollinators for a few summer weeks, but offers nowhere to nest, nothing for caterpillars, and little through spring or fall, is a restaurant that keeps closing. The good news is that even a small American yard can become useful habitat without becoming messy or expensive. But first, you have to stop judging it by how full it looks. Walk outside and imagine the property as a map instead of a shopping list. Notice where the morning sun reaches bare soil, where the afternoon heat reflects from a wall, where rainwater lingers after a storm, and where a fence creates cool shade. Then look for the quiet gaps. Is there food in April, or does everything begin in June? Are there flowers after the summer show fades? Is every square foot covered by lawn, stone, or thick mulch? Does the garden have only low perennials with no shrubs or small trees above them? This quick survey matters because wildlife experiences a yard as a chain of resources. One broken link can make an otherwise beautiful space far less useful. A bee may find nectar, but no nesting ground. A butterfly may find flowers, but no plant its caterpillars can eat. A bird may find seeds in fall, but no dense branch where it can shelter. The design challenge is not to cram in everything. It is to connect the missing functions. Start with the calendar. Pick up a sheet of paper and divide your growing season into early, middle, and late bloom. The exact months will shift between coastal California, the Great Plains, New England, the humid Southeast, and high-elevation gardens. What matters is continuity. When one group of flowers slows down, another should be opening. That can be harder than it sounds. Garden centers are at their most colorful when shoppers are buying, so a cart filled on one weekend can accidentally produce a garden that peaks on one weekend. Instead, choose plants from a regional native plant guide or your local cooperative extension recommendations. Match them to the actual light, moisture, soil, and winter conditions in your yard. Native goldenrods, asters, milkweeds, flowering shrubs, and spring woodland plants all include species with very different ranges and site needs. The familiar name on a tag does not make every species suitable everywhere. Planting several compatible flowers together also makes them easier for pollinators to find. A small sweep of repeated blooms creates a clearer target than isolated dots scattered across a lawn. But do not turn that idea into a monoculture. Diversity is the insurance policy. Different flower shapes, colors, heights, and bloom periods serve different visitors, and a mix is less likely to fail all at once during unusual heat, drought, or heavy rain. Flowers are only the adult dining room. The deeper shift happens when you design for reproduction. Many butterfly and moth caterpillars can eat only a narrow range of host plants. If those plants are missing, visiting adults may sip nectar and leave without starting the next generation. Milkweeds are the best known example for monarchs, but every region has its own relationships among insects and plants. A local native plant society, botanical garden, or extension office can help you choose host plants that belong in your ecoregion rather than relying on a national list that ignores geography. Now raise your eyes from the flower bed. A flat garden offers fewer choices than a layered one. Picture low ground cover and bunch grasses at your feet, flowering perennials around knee height, shrubs at shoulder height, and, where space and utilities allow, a small native tree above them. Those layers produce different blooms, seeds, stems, bark, shade, and shelter. They also make a narrow side yard or back fence feel deeper and more intentional. You do not need to fill every layer across the whole property. A single connected border can do several jobs. Near the front, shorter plants keep sidewalks and sidelines clear. Behind them, taller perennials soften a fence. A shrub at the corner gives the bed a strong visual anchor, while a small tree can add spring flowers or later fruit, where it fits the region. This is where habitat design and ordinary landscaping stop fighting each other. Repetition gives the bed order, while varied height gives it life. The strongest improvement, however, may be the one that looks least like a purchase. A large majority of native bee species nest in the ground. Others use hollow or pithy stems, beetle holes in wood, or small natural cavities. If every sunny patch is buried under landscape fabric, stone, or a deep blanket of mulch, the yard may offer flowers without a nursery. Look for one warm, well-drained corner that can remain mostly bare and undisturbed. It does not need to be a large patch of exposed dirt in the middle of the front yard. It might be a discreet opening among bunch grasses or at the back of a sunny bed. Elsewhere, leave a few sturdy stems standing and keep a small piece of sound. Untreated deadwood where it will not create a hazard. Natural nesting materials are often more useful than decorative bee hotels, and they demand less intervention. Bee hotels are not automatically harmful, but they are not a set-it-and-forget-it shortcut. Tubes that stay damp, dirty, crowded, or unchanged can concentrate parasites and disease. If you use one, choose a design that can be opened, inspected, cleaned, and replaced as recommended by a reliable local source. Keep it protected from rain and pay attention to who is actually using it. A neglected bee hotel is garden decor. Habitat is a living system. If this kind of practical, region-aware gardening is what you want more of, subscribe to Pollinator. We will keep turning ecological advice into changes that work in real yards. Water is the next tempting shortcut. A deep pond can be wonderful where it is designed safely, but a small garden does not need one. A shallow dish with stones or a textured edge can provide landing places, as long as the water stays clean. Refresh it daily or at least every other day during warm weather. Scrub away buildup and never let stagnant water become a mosquito nursery. Moving water from a dripper or bubbler is another option. The goal is a clean drink, not a forgotten bucket behind the shed. Then comes the part that determines whether all of this survives. A wildlife garden cannot support insects if every chewed leaf triggers a spray. Begin with identification. A hole in a leaf is evidence of feeding, not a diagnosis. Watch the plant, check the underside of leaves, and decide whether the damage is cosmetic or genuinely threatening the plant. Healthy plants in the right conditions often tolerate some feeding, and that small amount of damage may be exactly what a caterpillar was supposed to do. When a pest problem does require action, use integrated pest management. Correct the site problem first, remove affected material when appropriate, use barriers or targeted mechanical controls, and choose the least disruptive, effective treatment only when it is needed. Read and follow the entire pesticide label. Pay close attention to restrictions involving blooming plants, pollinators, application timing, drift, water, children, and pets. Even products marketed as natural can harm beneficial insects when they are used carelessly. This does not mean your yard must look abandoned. Paths can stay crisp. Edges can be trimmed. Diseased material can be removed. Hazardous branches still need attention. The difference is that maintenance becomes selective. You disturb less soil, keep some useful stems, tolerate a little feeding, and avoid treating the whole yard for a problem that exists on one plant. If the project still feels too large, shrink the first move. Take one narrow strip of lawn along a fence or patio and give it a job. Keep the existing tree or shrub if it is healthy and useful. Add a small cluster of regionally appropriate flowers with overlapping bloom. Include a host plant suited to your area, one patch of bunch grass, a little open ground, and a clean water source you can realistically maintain. Observe it for a season before expanding. That pause is important. A plant guide can predict mature size, but your yard will reveal how wind moves through the corner, where roof runoff lands, which plants lean toward light, and which flowers visitors actually use. You may discover that an area labeled full sun is shaded by late afternoon, or that a low spot stays wet for days. Those observations are not failures. They are the information that turns a generic plan into a garden that belongs to its place. Over time, the strip becomes more than a flower bed. Spring blooms lead into summer clusters, which lead into late-season flowers and seed heads. Caterpillars have food. Ground nesting bees can find an undisturbed opening. Stems and shrubs create shelter. Clean water appears on hot days. A bird moving between neighboring yards finds one more safe pause, and that last connection may be the most hopeful part. A small property cannot reproduce an entire prairie, forest, or wetland. It does not need to. Urban and suburban yards can form stepping stones, especially when neighbors connect flowering borders, native shrubs, and less disturbed corners across a block. One yard becomes a link instead of an island. Return to the immaculate July garden from the beginning. It was never empty because it lacked beauty. It was quiet because too many resources arrived at once, then disappeared. When food, host plants, nesting places, clean water, and thoughtful maintenance begin to overlap through the year, the garden starts doing more than looking alive. It becomes a place where life can continue.